Before, I didn't like public speaking. I liked writing, but I didn't like public speaking. Weird, right? And now I teach about public speaking. I'm like, why am I here? Hello everyone! So last time we talked about how to write a great essay. Now, I know you guys are curious how to start public speaking. I think most of you actually follow me for public speaking. So I decided to create a long form video talking about how do you start public speaking if you're a beginner. So this is Public Speaking 101 for beginners. If you fear public speaking, it's normal to feel that way. In fact, there's glossophobia, or the fear of public speaking, that is remarkably common. Some experts estimate that as much as 77% of the population has some level of anxiety regarding public speaking. Some people, just like myself, learned how to control their nervousness as they're speaking. So it's all about a matter of practice. Know that the more that you practice, the higher the likelihood that you're going to get better at handling your speech anxiety. So, we're going to be discussing the do's and don'ts of public speaking. If you haven't followed me on Instagram yet, please do, because sometimes I make Q&A about random topics or sometimes about writing or public speaking. So if you want me to answer questions, I can make a YouTube video about it, or if you have a request, you can comment down below, content suggestion, and then the title of the video. Let's start. So first, we're gonna be delving into what are the do's of public speaking for beginners. What should you do? The first one is to know your audience. Kailangan mong alamin kung sino ba yung audience mo or kung kanino ka ba magsasalita. Para alam mo ano bang information yung gagamitin mo, ano bang type of language gagamitin mo. If you're a medical student and you're talking to medical students as well, then you can use jargons in the medical field. Pero if you're a medical student and you're talking to people na walang idea about the medical field, then definitely hindi ka pwedeng gumamit ng jargons or ng words that only practitioners are familiar with. So it's very important that you know who your audience is para alam mo kung ano yung type of design ng presentation mo, ano yung mga information na ilalagay mo, or pwede ka bang gumamit ng jargons or hindi. The second one is to start with an attention-grabbing line. Do you use a quote? Do you use a rhetorical question? Do you start it with an imagined scenario? Imagine the world without blank. Mga ganon. So how will you start your speech? Do you start it with a quote, a rhetorical question, or an imagined scenario, or do you present a shocking statement? So you have to think about how do you grab your audience's attention. So the most important part of your presentation is to have your audience's attention by the beginning of your presentation. Next up is connect and engage with your audience. Dito na papasok yung paano mo sila i-engage, paano sila magiging part ng speech mo. May ibang mga speakers na parang raise your hand if you feel like this way, or if you've experienced this. If you guys remember mga ganong speeches, may mga times na yung mga speakers pinapagalaw nila or nakikipag-interact sila with their audience. Sometimes for some speeches, pwede mong i-engage yung audience mo sa speech mo. What really is important is that you relate to them. Kailangan makuha mo yung attention nila. Kailangan you're sort of relatable or interesting whenever you present your topic para pakinggan ka ng audience mo. For like what I've mentioned earlier, you need to define terms that your audience is not familiar with. So kung meron kang medical terms na ginamit, meron kang acronyms na ginamit, merong jargon na ginamit, after mentioning that, you need to clearly explain it to them. For example, topics relating to mental health, depression. So usually it's about chemical imbalance, right? So if you're a psychiatrist and you need to be explaining that, kailangan mong i-explain yung mga chemicals. Halimbawa, what's serotonin, what's dopamine, what's oxytocin? Ano ba yung nangyayari kapag may depression? Ano yung chemical na mababa kaya nagkakaroon ng depression yung isang tao? You need to clearly paint them a picture and you need to explain those medical terms para maintindihan ng audience mo. Number 5, you need to incorporate strategic pauses. I know that this might sound intimidating for some people kasi kapag nag-pause sila parang, hala, ano nga ulit yung sasabihin ko sa susunod? Nalimutan ko, ano nga ba yun? For some people, it can be really intimidating, but it's really important that you take a pause. Kasi when you take pauses, especially strategic ones, your audience will anticipate the next word that you'll be saying. Kaya sobrang importante na meron kang pauses in between so that you'll be able to engage them and you'll be somehow mysterious kung ano ba yung mga next lines na sasabihin mo. Number 6, of course, you need to tell stories. A great speaker is someone who tells great stories. Again, this is a case-to-case basis, so as to other things. Pero sa ibang types of speeches, inspirational speeches or motivational speeches, for example, or if your speech is to persuade, pwede kang mag-incorporate ng stories. Stories that will gain the attention and the hearts of your audience. It can be a touching story about your topic. So, kailangan makapag-incorporate ka ng story as you're speaking or as you're discussing about a specific topic. And the last thing that you should do is to practice. The best way to reduce your nervousness in public speaking is to just really practice. Sobrang importante na lahat pinagpa-practicean mo kahit sa harap ng salamin o kahit sa harap ng camera. I think I've grown more confident in speaking because I do a lot of TikToks. I had 2 platforms now, and that really helped me with my public speaking skills. Kakasalita sa camera, and also I have invitations for school. Sometimes I teach about public speaking. So that really helps me in building my confidence and of course in speaking in public. Of course, there are a couple of things you should not do in public speaking. Number 1, don't just memorize. Huwag mo lang i-memorize yung speech mo. Kasi minsan, kapag nagsispeech ka, tapos meron kang script, kapag nakalimutan mo yung isang bagay na sinasabi mo sa script mo, malilimutan mo na lahat ng susunod na sasabihin. So, mas maganda na meron ka ng outline sa isip mo na pwede mong sundan as you're speaking so that if you forget a word, at least alam mo yung flow ng presentation mo and hindi ka malilito kung ano yung susunod mong bagay na kailangang sabihin. Number 2, don't forget that studies show that your audience will only remember around 3 to 4 points in your presentation. So you have to be intentional kung ano ba yung mga information na ilalagay mo or ano yung mga highlights sa presentation na ilalagay mo. Kasi it's around 3 to 4 things or 3 to 4 points that your audience will remember about your speech or about your presentation. So you have to incorporate value-adding information in your speech. Number 3, don't distract your message by adding unnecessary details. When I was first starting out in Metro Manila Toastmasters Club, I'm currently the VP for PR of the club. I used to incorporate a lot of stories in just one speech. Sa isang speech, ang dami kong nilalagay na information or nilalagay na sub-stories na nagkakagulo na yung information doon sa speech na yun. So, you have to be intentional. Ano yung mga stories na ilalagay mo? Paano yung magiging flow ng presentation mo? Para hindi magkagulo-gulo. Kung ano lang yung main topic, dun ka lang mag-stick. Number 4, don't make unnecessary movements or gestures. Halimbawa, nag-iisip ka. A common thing that we usually do kapag nag-iisip, or for some speakers na baguhan, minsan common na titingin sa taas, magkakamot, hawakan yung buhok. Iwasan mo yung mga mannerisms na ganon. And the best way to do that is to just really film yourself as you're speaking. Pag nagpa-practice ka, tingnan mo kung paano ka mag-practice, kung paano ka magsalita. It's really helpful that you record yourself or you watch yourself in front of the mirror. Kasi as speakers, minsan tayo rin yung nakaka-distract sa sarili nating audience. And the problem with that is if na-distract yung audience mo, they're not gonna listen to you anymore. Kasi mabobore sila or sometimes they won't see you as a credible speaker. Number 6 is to not go over time. I know that sometimes it's hard to be more concise with your topic. Hindi mo alam kung ano yung mga topic na ilalagay mo. But remember that in every presentation, you just need to put the main idea or yung mga highlights ng research mo, highlights ng presentation, yun lang yung kailangan mong ilagay sa presentation mo. Yung mga nitty-gritty details, you can say that as you're speaking, you can add them kung meron ka pang extra time. You just need to remember those details. Pero pinaka-main points mo lang dapat yung naka-add sa presentation mo para hindi ka mag-overtime. You really need to be intentional with the information that you'll be placing there. And lastly, of course, don't beat yourself up. When I was starting public speaking, I really didn't know how to answer impromptu speeches. I was around 19 years old. Even if someone were to ask me the question, what is your favorite color and why? I wouldn't even be able to answer it. So don't beat yourself up if you can't answer a simple question because sometimes it's really hard to come out of your shell, especially for introverts. So kailangan, you need to constantly practice. You have to think about what went wrong and what went right. And then from there, you have to recalibrate and kailangan mong mag-innovate ulit ng ideas mo kung paano mas mapapaganda yung presentation mo or yung performance mo. Just know that if you're struggling, you're not alone and public speaking is really tough. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you have other questions, don't forget to drop them, or if you have other tips on how to develop someone's public speaking skill, then you can drop them below. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram. I post Q&A there sometimes so that we can have a more engaging conversation. And if you want to be featured on my next video, just drop a hi in the comment, or if you have content suggestions, just put them down below and I'll be reading your comments. Thank you so much for watching this, and I hope this is helpful for you. Bye!